and Glenn show. And first of all, though, we're going to start off with Nick Fisher. Nick is from the Humane Society of South Platte Park, and Nick would like to say a few words. If you'd come down, Nick. He brought a friend with him.
Thank you, Jim. This is Dakota, and Dakota's about 6 years old. And look at him. He's very cool. The Humane Society is located down at Bellevue in Santa Fe, and we're right behind the Lowe's Shopping Center. We're on the west side of Santa Fe on Shenango Street. So we've been in operation for about 2 years, and we're doing really well. We have a live release rate for all animals of 95%. So 95% of the animals that come into our shelter leave. So we're very proud of that fact. We handle about 2,000 animals a year, and in order to help all these animals, we always need volunteers, and we always need donations. So come by, stop and see us. We'd love to see you guys. So we are your community animal shelter. We serve 7 cities within Arapahoe County. So come and check us out. Thanks.
Thank you, Nick and Dakota. And this shelter, by the way, is located within District 1. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have Nick here tonight. I want to tell you that our sound system operates on some sort of magical radio waves. And even if your cell phone is sometimes on vibrate, it will interfere with the sound system. So if you could turn it off, it would be most helpful, because sometimes even vibrations will cause the sound system to start clicking at us and even cut the microphones off. I want to talk a little bit, first of all, about upcoming events. And primarily, I'm going to start with the Historic Downtown Littleton Merchants Association. HDLM is known as Hoodlum, and they've got a lot of activities going on in the month of October. On October 1st, there's going to be the Zombie Crawl and Pig Roast. It will be gathering at Woodlawn at about noon, and the Zombie Crawl will start at 1 o'clock, going toward downtown Littleton, and there'll be a pig roast on the Rinke Brothers parking lot, and you have to be a zombie in order to eat part of the roasted pig. October 7th and 8th is going to be the Pumpkin Follies and Goat Show. On Friday night, the 7th at 7 p.m., they're going to crown royalty. And Greg Moody, one of the local television people, is going to be the emceeing of this event. On the 8th at noon, the goat show and parade begins. It'll be on Main Street. At 1:30, there will be the world's largest Snap and Pop. This is where you get the little things that you get sometimes at fireworks, and throw them on the concrete and they pop. Well, they set a record last year, and they're trying to break the record this year about the most people who are participating in a Snap and Pop. At the same time on the 8th, from 1 to 3, there are going to be buskers up and down Main Street. There'll be, these are entertainers, and they'll be there for your enjoyment. Rinke Brothers Haunted House begins on September 30th, goes through October 31st. There are 30 scary rooms in the building, so you need to go check that out. October 6th, pumpkin poles go up on Main Street. These are decorated poles that are decorated by the merchants and a group of students. You can go pick your favorite. There's going to be a winner declared, and the winner will be naming a boy and a girl that's a junior in high school right now to a $500 or above scholarship for their college education, go toward their college education. That's sponsored by the Merchants Association. Trick or Treat Street is for kids on October 29th, starts at noon, goes to 5 p.m., that's a Saturday. The Haunts of Littleton, they on Saturday the 22nd at 7 and 9 p.m., and on Friday the 28th at 8 p.m. Each tour will last about an hour and a half. You gather at the Romancing the Bean at the RTD Park and Ride in downtown Littleton. The charge is $13 for anyone over the age of 13, and it's $2 if you're younger than 13. The funds are all going to help with the downtown project. The Melting Pot is doing a 5K road race. I think it's on the 22nd of October. You can get information by calling the Melting Pot phone number, which is 303-794-5666. There's a coat drive going on among the merchants downtown. There are some stores participating and some are not, so there will be a poster in the windows if they're participating in a coat drive. That starts on the 29th of October, which is the night of the Trick-or-Treat Street, and will end on November the 25th, which is the night of Candlelight Walk. Also in downtown, the Town Hall Arts Center is having a Vita. It goes through October 16th. There's a jazz concert at Town Hall on the 29th, and then The Wizard of Oz starts in the middle of November and goes clear through the end of December. Future events by the HDLM Merchants Association is going to be Santa's Magical Snow Show, Wigs and Giggles, Ladies Only Sample Tour, which is known as Lost, Old West Chili Haggle, Whoopee Cushion Concert Series, Mardi Gras, Der Sousa Zener Adventure, Wild on Littleton Block Party, Turkey Leg and Wine Hoedown, a Culture Fest, and Littleton Cemetery Alive. These are planned events coming up in the next year. I want to talk about another event happening in October. On October 15th is the 20th anniversary of the 10,000 Trees Project, which started planting the trees along the South Platte River after the 1965 flood wiped an awful lot of them out. Starting at 8 a.m. that morning, there's going to be 200 trees planted, and lunch for the tree planters will be at 11:30, followed at noon for a ribbon cutting for the East Side Trail. The East Side Trail is being extended from Prince Street all the way to Union Boulevard, to Big Dry Creek, and it intersects Big Dry at the same place where the bridge crosses over to the west to connect the West Side Trail. So it will be three major trails coming together there. Ribbon cutting for the east side will be at 12 noon. And by the way, if you want to help plant trees, just remember to bring gloves, bring your tools, bring sunscreen, bring water, and come and help us. The website to register to help is www.sspf.org. SSPF is South Suburban Park Foundation, which is the one that was funding, one of the funding leaders for putting the trail together. While on South Suburban subjects, in the next Littleton report, if you haven't received it yet, you will soon get it in your mailboxes. There's going to be an article on stolen plaques and the need to identify who and what was on some of those plaques. As many of you in District 1 know, there's a James Taylor park over on West Bellevue, and it has had both plaques stolen, as well as a carved rock that was commemorating my late wife that was stolen as well. So we're trying our best to replace these, but sometimes we need a little help from the public, and particularly on the missing plaques along the Platte River. If you have any information, look at the Littleton report, and then there's a phone number on there that you can call with information. October 13th, Joe Rice, who is a resident of District 1 and has served in Afghanistan for several tours and is a former state representative for this area, will have a public forum in this room on Afghanistan and Iraq, and your public's invited to come hear his perspective upon what is happening in those two countries and maybe where it's going to go in the near future. November 25th is the Candlelight Walk in downtown, the lighting of the trees along Main Street. Everyone's always invited to come, and if you've got children or grandchildren, to have a visit with Santa in Town Hall Arts Center after the parade. I think you can begin to see now why I'm so excited about what goes on in downtown Littleton. It is a very vibrant place, and it has lots of exciting things that go on. I'm going to next introduce Glenn Van Nimmergen, who's the Community Development Director, and he's going to talk about some things that's going on in the community and do a little slideshow about some of our events. Glenn, thank you for coming and presenting tonight.
Thanks, Jim. Where's Kelly? My picture's on. Oh, thank you. I think I know my.
Glenn, use the mic. Are you hooked up?
Turn it on.
No.
It helps if you turn on the mic.
Man, boy.
Why they need me?
Anyhow, I think I've met a lot of you, but this is my 4th month here in Littleton, and I came from Peoria, Arizona, which is in the Phoenix area, and I've just been loving the summer here, and Jim Woods swore to me it wouldn't get cold here and it wouldn't snow, so even though he's retiring, I'm going to hold him to it, because a deal's a deal.
Leave that, all right?
What I thought I would do is, first off, tell you a little bit about the Community Development Department. There's actually 3 very important parts of it. The administration, that's basically me. I think it's important, but nobody else really does. But really what we do in community development, it's what I love about it, is it really works with the city in all its stages of life. So we do some of the future planning for the community through the comprehensive plan. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the downtown plan, which is an important chapter of our community plan. That's really the advanced planning. So they're looking out into the future, and then also historic preservations in that as well. So how do we kind of keep the historic character of downtown Littleton that Councilman Taylor says is so vibrant, and it really is an exciting place. Then we have current planning, and that's probably what you're most familiar with. That's where we do a rezoning case. It's really the way we implement the comprehensive or the long-range plan for the city of Littleton. It's also how we protect the historic resources that are here. It's your typical zoning case. You'll see a sign up on a piece of property. We'll have a hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that's really what the current planning folks do. They also make amendments to the zoning code. If there's things we need to address on the zoning code, they're responsible for that. So once you've planned a project and you've got the zoning in place and you want to build it, that's also part of community development. So codes and inspections are the folks that do the plan review of any new project to make sure it's going to be built safe and in the right place. Those are very important things. But they're also, that department or that division is responsible for the maintenance of the city as well. How do we retain the value of the existing neighborhoods? And we do that really through code compliance. We have a standard of what a neighborhood should look like. If people step outside that standard and they're parking an 18-wheeler in the neighborhood, that's where we get involved with code compliance. And then the council's also implemented a pretty aggressive housing inspection program where we inspect the multifamily, the apartment projects in Littleton to make sure they meet a minimum level of suitability. So we are in a recession. It's kind of changed our workload a little bit. We haven't issued probably as many building permits as we have in the past couple of years. But as you'll see, there's a lot of things on the books. So where we've seen maybe codes and inspections, their activity going down a little bit, the planning end is very busy right now, dealing with new projects going through the process. And for us, we are responsible for serving 4 of the boards and commissions for the city of Littleton. There's the Planning and Zoning Commission, which you're probably familiar with. We have a Board of Appeals. So if somebody does not want to meet a building code requirement, they can always appeal to that board. Thankfully, they don't meet very often, so it doesn't come up very often. We can usually resolve most of the building code issues. A board of adjustment. So if somebody cannot meet one of the bulk requirements of the zoning code, and that's usually setbacks or height or amount of coverage of the property, they can appeal our decision to the Board of Adjustment. And then finally, the Historic Preservation Board, and they're the ones charged with, if you're going to modify a historic structure, how do you do that appropriately? So I'm going to talk about I think about 12 projects, and I'm just going to point them out real quickly, and then we'll get into more detail. Benny's is a local restaurateur. They, I think, have a very popular restaurant in Denver, and they're looking at a site that's right below the Regal Plastics project on the north end of District 1. It's right at Prince and Santa Fe, and we'll show you kind of what they're proposing. We've got a couple of car dealerships. One's Brandon Dodge. They've been here some time, but they're looking at an expansion. A new car dealer, I think new for the Denver area, is CarMax. They have a facility in Colorado Springs right now. They were big in the Phoenix area as well, so I'm a little familiar with CarMax. And then the Denver Water Company, it's a public company, is actually improving their site at Lowell and Bowles, which you probably remember now. It's kind of a bunch of dirt piles and I think a couple of steel buildings, but we have some kind of exciting, I think, exciting projects for what's going to happen on that site. And then right at this intersection, there's actually 3 projects. One is an existing building that Wal-Mart has kind of a downscale, smaller neighborhood market that they're proposing for an existing building. I'll show you the Shell station. You're probably familiar with that vacant site, and we hope to see that scraped. And a new convenience store, Circle K, with also gas, is going to be going in that site. McDonald's is under construction. You might have seen that on Santa Fe. They're probably a couple of months out from opening. And then we have 4 projects in the downtown area, the Main Street Marketplace, and then 3 buildings that are going to go through a full facade change. So you're going to see a lot of activity, a lot of construction activity happening in pretty much one block of the downtown area, I think in about the next 6 to 8 months. And then finally, Aspen Grove has got a couple of exciting projects as well that are that we're working with right now, and I think one is going to be a whole lot of fun. Anytime you mix movies and beer, it's going to be a good thing. So let me go back here. This is Benny's Restaurant. Is if you turn off Santa Fe onto Prince, if you come into the city council meeting. It's right below the Regal Plastics site. You might not have noticed it. It's a fairly small site. I think it is, it's about 1.7 acres. This is the site plan. I don't know if you can see it real well. This angle going off to the upper left would be Santa Fe Road. And then they're really looking at a couple of different buildings that are connected, a couple of restaurants. These are the building elevations. Benny's would be on the right, and I think he was actually talking to a Hungarian or a Mongolian restaurant for the other half, and I'm not sure what Mongolian food is. I don't know if it's yak or something like that, something exotic. This is a project that's still in a lot of flux. The developer has been to us a couple of different times with a couple of different configurations. I actually think he's looking at just putting his restaurant on this site as well, and it's going to fit a little bit better, and hopefully it will get moving real quickly. Brandon Dodge over on north of Littleton on Broadway Road has a site directly north of them. This is kind of a photo simulation of the site. They are really going to store their Dodge trucks, their Dodge dealer. I remember Bldg. I saw him on TV a few times, but this is their site. What you're really going to notice here is the frontage landscape is going to improve quite a bit. There's an existing building on the site. They're going to scrape that, and it's really going to become more of a display area, storage area for Dodge trucks. A little bit further down the street, again on the east side of Broadway Road, south of Littleton, is what used to be Burt Chevrolet, and that's been vacant for some time. And CarMax is looking to redevelop that site. They'll completely tear down the existing building that's there, scrape it. I think you might have seen some of the building elevations if you had a chance to go into the community room next door. These are the elevations. Actually, this one at the top is the one that will be most visible from Broadway Road. So this will be your view of the existing building. They sell only pre-owned vehicles, not used cars, pre-owned vehicles, low mileage, and they're kind of dealer that they set the price and there's no haggling. You don't have to go through all that rigmarole.
Glenn, let me just interject, just so you aren't confused. It's the old Burt Buick. It used to be Goodman Buick. Burt Chevrolet, as you know, is further north in Inglewood. So this is that vacant. Ronnie Goodman had a Buick dealership there, and then Burt took it over. So it's right across the street almost from the King Super. So it's 9 acres, been vacant for about 3 years. So just so they don't get confused with because there's another Burt dealership a little farther north.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. We're always excited about taking out a vacant building and putting in something that brings activity and brings people down. It'll help all the dealerships along Broadway Road. So this project, it's about 10 acres. It's not really that large of a building. It's about 27,000 square feet because mainly they sell cars, and those cars will be outside. But this is an exciting project. They want to move ahead quickly. They do have to go through a step. Our code requires a conditional use permit, which allows the Planning Commission to give a little bit finer look at the project, perhaps put some additional conditions on that project. So we hope before the end of the year that we'll be before the Planning Commission and hopefully start construction fairly quickly. And if we go across, again, across the city over to, this is on the west side of Lowell, at the corner of Bowles, is the Winnetka Decentralization Center. And this is really the maintenance facility for Denver Water. And as I mentioned, it's really been mostly a vacant lot with a lot of steel buildings. And this is what this new site plan will look at. So they'll put a great amount of landscaping right at the intersection. We like that because that's a nice entry into the city. And then this is showing actually 4 buildings, but I believe they've trimmed it down to 3 buildings. And one of the things that we've developed in the planning department and ultimately adopted by council is some architectural standards for certain portions of the city. And I think we call this rural vernacular, but the idea is to kind of harken back to the agricultural roots of Littleton. This is the building that will actually, that second elevation is what will back up to Lowell. So this will be principally what you'll see as you head down Lowell or Bowles. I think for a maintenance facility, they've really done an exceptional job on the building. If you go around the other side, that's where all the bay doors are. That's where they'll be maintaining most of their equipment and their trucks. I mentioned the Wal-Mart neighborhood market. This was, I think, originally in Albertsons that moved on. And this time last year, I think it was a Smartco, which I'm not familiar with, but they only lasted about 3 months. And I think they left the whole area. And so I don't know, Smartco maybe wasn't so smart. I'm not sure, but it didn't work out so well. This is actually a very great building. There's not a whole lot of improvements that needs to be done. Wal-Mart will be totally redoing the interior to kind of meet what they, how they run a shopping center, and it's actually just a grocery store at this point. It's very similar to the Albertsons. It's 42,000 square foot building, and again, we had a vacant building there which really doesn't do anything for the neighborhood. And we think this will bring some more traffic. Yes, sir? You have a question?
They're going to stay.
They'll stay.
Yeah, they're not going to. That's part of the overall center. So they've just bought what was the Albertsons, so that liquor store, and then there's a couple of other. I think there's a hair stylist there, and they'll stay.
They actually are those actually to the west. There's like a two-story bunch of retail buildings in there.
Talking about directly south.
Okay.
This extends right on down towards Bowles, and then I know where you're talking about there.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully make that area a little bit more viable. For some reason, they're talking about a very late start. I don't know. They're talking about September 2012 being open, so an actual year. But their plans are in now. They're in review. And it really wouldn't take them that long to open this store. So maybe they're trying to not overpromise and then delay the project. So I expect it would be before September 2012, but I think that's their official line at this point. And then if you go directly across the street, and I'm sure you folks have seen this. This is the old Shell station there that's been fenced for about a year and a half now. And Circle K is buying this site. They're going to scrape it. Here's some very early building elevations. It will improve. Circle K's convenience store will also sell gas, but definitely will improve the area. And actually, again, we have 3 projects at one intersection. It's pretty exciting to see kind of that change because it is kind of an important entrance into Littleton. We're really thrilled with this. Again, McDonald's, one of the things I did want to mention, and you'll see kind of a theme here, is that, and it's not new for you, but it's new for me, but every one of these projects is really a redevelopment project. It's an existing facility that's being cleaned and a new project going in. But part of that is also because in retail, it seems their trends are changing really rapidly. You don't see a retail building, lasting 20 years. A company will change their marketing, they'll change their look, and like McDonald's did. I think they realized that the large play area out on Santa Fe Road didn't produce a whole lot of revenue for them, probably created some liability issues. So they've really tried to upgrade their image, and here's the new, what the new building will look like. I hope in the next 2 to 3 months we'll actually be able to go in there and I can get a fish sandwich. What I think is interesting with McDonald's is I've kind of spent my career trying to get the golden arches to be reduced in scale because that was always kind of their sign and they loved it and they're usually kind of ugly. And look, now they're doing it on their own. They're really trying to get away from the big golden arches.
Finally listen to you, Glenn.
Finally, maybe. And then downtown Littleton, we've got 4 different projects, and I just wanted to make a plug for some of the long-range planning. The Planning Commission has been working on a chapter out of the comprehensive plan. That's the Downtown Neighborhood Plan. It's been a labor of love for about 3 years, maybe going on 4 years. Actually, last night they approved it, and it will go on to the City Council next week for their final adoption. This is the guide that we use for any future rezoning requests, any future redevelopment request. We go to the policies that are contained in the comprehensive plan and the downtown neighborhood plan. So it really gives the city and the staff direction in how to go forward. This is, I think maybe some of you might have picked up on the left is the framework plan. And the plan kind of goes through how we looked at all the physical improvements that are in place and lay them on top of each other and really create a future growth model for the downtown area. So first I want to mention, and there's a few different things we do downtown. We have an opt-in historic district or Main Street district that requires if a developer enters that district, he has to fall under different rules, and one of them being you do anything to your building, you go through historic preservation, but there's also real benefits to it as well. And I think the city has done a real good job of not just requiring the sticks in entering the historic district, but there's benefits, ways to lure you in. And one of them is we have a grant program. So if you're in the district and you want to make improvements to your facade, you can get up to $15,000, $25,000 this year to do improvements. But here's a project that recently the council approved to opt into the downtown district. It's used to be actual stables, and then they sold cars out of this site, which kind of shows the transition of Littleton. It's really, I think you'd call it a lifestyle center. It's about 10,000 square feet. As you walk in the front door, it's kind of an open area that then there will be 3 restaurants and some retail, kind of in a very small mall concept. It's an exciting project. The developer has actually run into some financing issues, so it's kind of on ice at this time. And I think some of the other issues they ran across was as you deal with in an old downtown, environmental issues. So because it was an auto dealership, I think there were some buried tanks. And anyhow, I think they're wrangling over some of the environmental issues that may or may not be at this site. And one thing I also wanted to mention about this is really at the west end of Main Street. So it's west of Curtis Street. It's an area that, the melting pot is such a draw for our downtown. One of the things that the staff was excited about this project is here's a reason now that you leave the melting pot and you can wander into downtown. And it's something like this that kind of draws you out, keeps you from getting back in your car and going home, but hopefully pulls people into the downtown so they can spend more money, which is, as you know, our ultimate goal. A couple of smaller projects. This is Hedrick Engineering, which I think has been in our downtown area for some time.
Vito's Shoe Shop.
Used to be Vito's Shoe Shop. These next 3 projects are all in the block between Prince and Nevada Street. What they're doing here is they're really changing out the front facade. So I'll show you a little bit. And this is similar to what, this is exactly what the Historic Preservation Board looks at. They look at materials. This is the Hedrick Engineering Building is that 2-story building that's kind of in the center of the photo simulation on the left. The second story is going to come later. They're really going to move forward on the front facade very quickly. And then here's some of the materials on the right that they're going to use, some of the original block and brick that was part of the shoe store originally. So they're really trying to bring it back to some of its early glory. And then you'll also see the Coors building a little bit further to the left on that picture. And the building in between is affectionately called the Coors Building Extension. And that owner is also looking at doing a facade improvement. They're putting, I think right now it's just one tenant, but they're splitting it into a couple of different storefronts. What we look at is trying to get a lot of glass on Main Street. You want to get people walking around. They want to have exciting things to look at in the windows and stuff. So that's something that we look at whenever anybody is changing a facade downtown. And this is actually a good example. Right across the street is the Old Town Tavern. And as you can see in the upper right-hand or left-hand corner is the bar as it is right now. It's a lot of brick, small windows, not really appealing for somebody walking by, but the owner has seen the value in our grant program, and the Historic Preservation Commission just approved their grant funding. Oh, and it used to be the movie theater on the lower left-hand corner. That's a picture of it. In fact, Abbott and Costello was meeting Frankenstein. That's a great film. So they've kind of brought back, and you can't really see it in the picture, but there's a lot of windows on the front facade as the movie theater, and that's what they're bringing back. So this is what they're proposing on the lower right, a lot of glass. You can't really see it, but there's some railings there where hopefully be a sidewalk patio. Folks can sit outside and enjoy the pedestrian traffic and the lovely weather in Littleton. So that was our downtown, some really exciting projects, and really that block, you'll see a lot of things happening coming up. And last but certainly not least, to the southern end of our project is Aspen Grove. It's a project that's been very viable for 10 years. And really what's happening is in that pad area that's adjacent to Santa Fe, where Buca de Beppo is and the Big Bowl, that site is completely getting scraped and cleaned off for a couple of different uses. The first is additional retail buildings, about 10,000 square feet. I don't know who the retailers will be, but this is very similar to the existing architecture. The building on the south is, or on the lower part of this picture is what you'll see on Santa Fe, and the openings will really be on the other side towards the center. So more exciting retail opportunities are going to be coming to Aspen Grove. And then hopefully you've heard about the Alamo Drafthouse Cinema that we announced recently, and that's the big building that is just to the south of the retail. Let's see if I can... Alamo Drafthouse Cinema was certainly new to me. They're out of Texas. They come out of Austin, and they're in Houston, and I think the Dallas area. This is their first foray. Actually, I think they have one other in Virginia, but other than that, this is their first foray out of the Texas market. They provide good food, good drink, and a good movie at the same time. And it's not only the current features, but they'll bring back other classic movies as well, and like The Shining, and I think Jim was saying that they do other special events where I think they'll show silent movies.
Sometimes live music, a whole lot of variety.
Yeah, so it's going to be pretty exciting. It's
Glenn, isn't one of the movies Abbott and Costello meets Frank?
maybe we could try and bring that back. Yes, ma'am.
Is that where the Buca de Beppo is?
Right.
So they're not going to be there anymore?
They will not be there anymore.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, I was there yesterday, and they're actually cleaning out some of the things out of Buca de Beppo. So I don't know what's happened with Buca de Beppo.
There's only one up north, and that's it. They were having money problems.
There's only one up north. So, yeah, I liked them too. I mean, I remember eating, and they always had a bust of the Pope right there, which always made me a little nervous, but it was a great restaurant, but this will be even better. Here's a picture. I believe this is one of the Texas sites, but we're pretty excited about it. So other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything in the planning world.
Thank you very much. They look very impressive, all of the new projects. And I would have a question, not necessarily for you, but all of these new projects seem to have the possibility of generating an awful lot of revenue for the city. And my question would be, has that been calculated anywhere in terms of what new revenues they would represent, and if they're going to be finished next year? Have they been locked into the budget? Where is the money? How much money is coming in, and where is it going?
Money doesn't matter to us, but
Yeah, it does matter. But let me, and there's a joke around. In fact, Friday, they did a little retirement ceremony for it. Those of you may know Friday's my last day here, but I'm known as the city's wet blanket. So the council presented this whole kit for me about how to bring out a blanket and squirt it with water, and then said put it on an idea. So here's the wet blanket part of this. Okay, yes, we're going to get the Alamo Drafthouse, but we're losing the Buca de Beppo. Okay, so how much more will we get from there? I don't know. We're gaining the Wal-Mart, but you remember that's moving into where a vacant Albertsons was. So what I look at is there a net new, and Tiffany Hooten, who's our accounting manager, keeps reminding me that you have to count the net revenue. So
You're saying that these new projects offset what we're going to do?
partly, we hope they will hold us steady.
So they haven't been factored in any way?
We're assuming that we will maintain. We're not assuming any additional revenue. That's the optimistic side. But as you know, we've budgeted very conservatively over the years, so we've just assumed that they're going to replace what we had lost when the Albertsons closed down and those kinds of things. But so the upside is we're very happy to have these. You're right, and we have continued to be, and so we might get more optimistic if we get into the year and we see that revenue flowing in.
Projects been locked into some kind of a contract, or are they still susceptible of leaving?
Well, as Glenn said, this one appears to be a very solid because we're told that they've already signed contracts. The Wal-Mart is an absolute go. As Glenn said, the Benny's restaurant is an iffy. The market that he showed on downtown is an iffy because, with all the financing stuff. So we don't count these chickens till I see them laying the eggs. So
My original question was, though,
have we factored them in?
anyone factored in what this revenue?
No, sir. We've assumed that they would just backfill what we were going to lose. So if we'd like to be more optimistic, we'd like to do that too. But right now we're being very conservative.
Remember, Glenn said that these are all redevelopment projects. They are replacing something that was generating revenue for us in the past. And so the new revenue may exceed the old revenue. We don't know that. Only experience will tell us that in the future. But they are replacing something that was generating revenue in the past. The Coors extension up there is the old Abe's restaurant. Abe's is no longer there, but the retail spaces coming in there may exceed the revenue we receive from Abe's. It may not. We don't know that. So all of these are redevelopment type projects, and whether they're going to make us more money or not, we don't know.
I don't want to belabor it, but are these old ones that have been lost, have they been they have not been factored into the budget, so you're not offsetting anything. They've just been lost. So what's going to come from this would be new income. It's not going to offset. For the current budget, they're not factored in. Nice thing to know. Thank you.
I give you these microphones because we are being televised tonight, and the television audience cannot hear you unless you're speaking into a microphone. So if you got a question for Glenn, I'll be glad to give you the microphone.
Thanks. I just want to check, are there any other downtown residents here besides me? Okay, so I'm not going to belabor this, but City Council and Glenn, I'm concerned about parking in downtown. And there have been many waivers from Rolls and the Tavern and now this new marketplace. My neighbors on Curtis are already going crazy. What are you going to do? And it's not in the new neighborhood plan as far as I can see. What are you going to do to solve the parking problem downtown, especially for the residents?
Well,
Speak it to the mic, Glenn.
I have my own little mic here. Can everybody hear me?
Get it up. Move it up a little bit, maybe.
All right. Well, I guess what one person would see as a problem, I see as an opportunity. I mean, I come from a community that had nothing happening in their downtown and lots of parking. I don't think we want to revert to that. We have studied the parking analysis quite often, actually. I think I read 3 different studies, the last being in 2004, which is still some time ago. One of the things that we did budget for this year is to really do a better inventory of the existing parking and tie it to the existing uses so we can get a good idea of what uses are generating the most parking demand and where that's located. And then from there, I mean, it's a larger strategy of how we solve parking. But there's a lot of things you can do as far as management. We I'm not going to put Kent on the spot, but we have the RTD site. There's opportunities there, so we're working on it.
And I can tell you as one city council person that the city is not going to build a parking structure. We can't afford to do that. So when the property owners in downtown see that there is enough of a problem to do something about it, then that is when something may happen with the parking. But until that occurs, I think we're going to kind of keep the status quo. Okay, Pam.
Sorry, just to follow up. So I want to emphasize that residents pay property taxes, and we need protection downtown. I happen to have parking, but my neighbors don't. So I understand that merchants are important, and I like the activity downtown. I'm not arguing we should have an empty downtown. I'm saying that both communities matter. We need residents and we need business. We need to provide parking to protect the residents, not just to supply the merchants, and that's what I want to see the city step up to solve. And it may be some collaboration, but it's got to be solved for the residents.
Thank you. Rich.
Ranke Brothers used to make their parking lot available for public parking at least part of the 24-hour period, but it seems like we lost that parking. Do you have any background on that?
Yes, whenever the contract came up for renewal with Rinke Brothers, the council did not renew it. There were various reasons for that, partly having to do with an increase in rent, so we opted not to do that. It is now a paid parking lot. Anyone else? Thank you, Glenn. I would just mention a couple of other things. That in the restaurant area down at Prince and Santa Fe, there's a new restaurant opened up there called Relish It. It's a kind of a fast food hamburger place. It was in the old Starbucks site. So again, it's another restaurant that's moved in, replacing one that was making us some money in the past. And you notice that when he talked about the Denver Water Board, it was called Winnetka. Winnetka was an incorporated town in that area. And it was incorporated for a very short period of time in opposition to the creation of the city of Littleton. And it was disbanded, and the city of Littleton then annexed it in. So that's where Winnetka came from. And all of these things that Glenn showed you tonight, with the exception of the two car dealerships on Broadway and Aspen Grove, are all within District 1. So we've got a lot of activity going on right now in District 1. I want to next introduce some people. I'm Jim Taylor, and I represent District 1, which is the northwest quadrant of the city. Joe Trujillo is in District 2. He's in the northeast quadrant of the city. Phil Cernanik is District 3 in the southeast quadrant. Debbie Brinkman is in the southwest quadrant, representing District 4. Peggy Cole, Bruce Stallman, and Mayor Doug Clark are all council persons at large. Jim Woods mentioned a few moments ago that he is retiring after being in the city for a large number of years. His last day is Friday. And that, since this is his last official meeting he will have before City Council and citizens, I've asked if he wanted to say a few words before he goes out with a big bang.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, hello, West Siders. How many of you live on the west side of the river? Okay, most of you live on the west side of the river. So, you know, I was driving over here tonight, and I was thinking, I started here in September 1 of 1984. So I was thinking about all the things that had changed since September 1 of 1984. And when I got here in 84, how many were here when the old Centennial Racetrack was here? Okay, so you remember those. How many lost money how many won money How many of you won money? So you know, the old Centennial Racetrack is now about 1,000 dwelling units. It's a Home Depot store. It's the South Suburban golf course and tennis club and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's a lot prettier than the racetrack. I'm not sure it's more fun. And some of you probably remember the Santa Anita Lounge, and I see some heads shaking here, and the jockeys who were very colorful. I've heard stories. In fact, we did a video, a show where we interviewed some of the people who worked at the racetrack, and I remember one about a jockey. He would fill his own teeth, and he would, instead of going to the dentist, he would just take a screw and he would just screw it in there. So those were very colorful days, right? So the racetrack is now this really kind of urban development. The Riverfront Center, where the old Tortilla Flat used to be, you know, it went through an iteration, and now it's the Dish Network, and then the whole riverfront. You know, the hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars that we've put into bike paths and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, that area is really transformed tremendously. I would say that on the west side of the river, probably the most dramatic physical change has been the redevelopment of the old racetrack. The Winnetka Ponds open space, which was the purchase of the Chambers Farm, tremendous buy, 26 acres. That'll be preserved forever. So, you know, as I look at the west side and think about change, and even then, I bet you from 80 to 1980 to today, if you looked at the whole river valley, when Glenn showed the Aspen Grove Center up there, it used to be the Quig Newton Farm and Silver Crown Fertilizer. And for the first few years I was here, I would get calls in the spring as the aroma drifted off of the Silver Crown Fertilizer. And now we're going to have this Alamo Drafthouse. So the theme here is, you know, things are going to change. Things are going to change. And so I'm wondering, Michael Penny is going to be coming in next Monday. And if he's here 27 years, he'll be standing here in 2038. And so I'm thinking, what will Michael be talking about in 2038 to people? What kind of changes there will be? A couple of things that won't change that I'm absolutely sure is the core values of Littleton. The people that I've known, Pete Gerber, was one of the first GNS Auto. Pete's is still standing. You're a trooper. He's been there on Lowell for how long, Pete? 33 years. He was one of we have a program called Economic Development, and Pete was one of the first businesses to go through that. So it's great to see him here, and he's a great guy. A couple of my favorite projects on the west side that folks will know, the Memorial Park to Navy SEAL Danny Dietz at the corner of Berry and Lowell. If you haven't been, that's one of my favorite spaces in all of Littleton. Danny was a Littleton boy. He grew up about 4 blocks from Centennial Grade School, went to Centennial Elementary. He went to Goddard Junior High, graduated from Heritage High, went off to be a Navy SEAL, an absolute hero, a Navy Cross winner. And I especially like that park this time of the year. For those of you who know that park, you know, there's a huge cottonwood tree if you ever go by there. And that tree starts to change color. And I love to go over there in October or November and sort of visit with Danny. I happen to be real close to his family and his dad. And so Danny's a Littleton boy, and I think I was proud of the way Littleton embraced Danny and his family. The other is, are there any people here from Arapahoe Hills? From Arapahoe? Okay. Arapahoe Hills, which is on their way to historic designation. This is the neighborhood bounded by Lowell on the east, Berry on the south, Camargo on the west, and then Arrowhead on the north. And this is, in my view, one of the absolute neatest neighborhoods in the whole Denver area. They initiated historic designation for themselves, and to me it's that kind of community spirit that I see in Littleton. So whatever those big changes are going to be over the years, what I predict is the core values of Littleton people and the West Siders that I've worked with over the years will not change. You will still believe in the community. You will still believe in participating. You'll still believe in the future of the country. So good luck to all of you, and I'm still going to be involved, but it's been great, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. As he mentioned, Michael Penny, our new city manager, comes to work next Monday. On Tuesday, the 4th, from 6 to 7, we're going to be having a welcoming reception in the community room for Michael and his family. So any of you would like to come by and introduce yourselves and say hello, feel free to do so. I want to introduce some more members of the city staff that are here tonight. John Mullen, who is fire chief. Dan Burnham, housing director. Tim Nintz, museum director and acting library director. Tiffany Houghton, who is in our finance department. And you've met Glenn. Kelly Nardi, a communications director. I think I got everybody that's on city staff that's here tonight. City election comes up in November. It is a mail ballot. If you are signed up to get a mail ballot through the county clerk, you'll be receiving a mail ballot from the city. If you're not signed up, you have some options. You can go to an early voting center. There are 17 of them within the county, and you can go to any one of them and be able to cast a ballot for Littleton. There are 4 early voting centers. The closest early voting center is at Federal and Bellevue, right by O'Toole's. It is the county warehouse for their all kinds of stuff. It's their warehouse, but that is also a place where you can vote early. I have asked the at-large candidates that are running for city council to come tonight. I'm in the middle of a term, so you don't get to vote for somebody for District 1 representative because I'm in the middle. But I've asked the 3 at-large candidates to come tonight, and I've asked them if they would come and say a few words. And we're going to do this alphabetical. So we'll start with Bruce Beckman, one of the candidates running at large.
Hi, I'm Bruce Beckman, and I'm running for at-large city council. I came here in 1974. I got off active duty in the military, came to Colorado, and came for the lifestyle and the outdoor sports and those kinds of things, and came to Littleton. I was fortunate to be hired by the city in 1974, and I said, I'm staying, and I've stayed ever since. This is absolutely a great community. I've raised my kids here. I've lived in Littleton proper for 21 years. I lived on the fringes for all 37 years. And I had the opportunity to have a great career and live in an absolutely wonderful community. I've been knocking on doors. The big challenge is obviously the economy. It is an issue that just drags and chips away at everything, including our city budget. I'm so glad to hear the talk about economic development. It's much easier to solve city problems by bringing in revenue than by finding ways to cut. I know what's important to folks who live in the city. I know what's important to protect. It's very important in these tough economic times to keep the things that matter to us, and that's what I'm going to do as a city council member. I have some material I'd like to offer for you to take when you leave today. I have a web page at www.beckmanforcouncil.com. The literature has my home phone on it. If you have a question and would like to talk to me, it would be a great honor to serve you as the council member at large, and I appreciate this opportunity, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce, so it doesn't get confused with what we've got in the community room, you might want to consider it this table up here where Kelly is, so anybody who wants one of that can come by. Oh, I'm sorry, back there would be even better. Thank you. right in the center in the back. Next candidate is Peggy Cole, another candidate running for an at-large seat.
Thank you. So, Peggy Cole. I've lived here since 1968. Littleton's been part of my heart and soul ever since I came. I came to teach at ACC and taught there 36 years and wanted to be involved in the city, but just never had time until I retired. So here I am, being involved. I love Littleton's small town character with its friendly neighborhoods, parks, trails, open space, all the things probably most of you love. And I want to preserve that as we move forward, because we will move forward in the 21st century, to be 21st century. My priorities are fiscal responsibility and accountability, economic and social vitality, preserving the quality of our neighborhoods and the quality of our lives, transparency, and open government. During my 4 years on council, we've been dealing with the worst recession that at least people say since World War II. We've dealt with that budget, but we've dealt in the past 4 years with just about every issue otherwise that a council ever has to deal with. I think that experience will be helpful with our new city manager. If we could, we'd be keeping Jim here, but we have to respect his wishes. But we think we had a great process and have selected a very good replacement. We hope so, Jim. You know, I mentioned me, but the most important asset in Littleton is you all, the citizens. That's what, as Jim said, makes this city great and will help us not just survive, but thrive as we move forward. So thank you so much. And I, too, am walking the city. Bruce and I are streetwalkers here, but for women it has a little different connotation. But anyway, I hope to get to talk to many of you if I haven't already. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peggy. The last candidate that is running for the at-large seat is David Novinger.
Well, as Jim said, I'm David Novinger, and I didn't have a choice to come to Littleton. My family moved here when I was 11, and so that was 39 years ago, and I have never wanted to live anyplace else but here in Littleton. My wife came here. She went to Heritage. I went to Littleton High School. That creates a little bit of discourse in our family. I have two boys, Wilder and Goddard, and I've been probably self-employed or owner of a small business for the last 30 years, and so I know what it takes. Because when you have a business, you're the guy that has to make all the decisions, and you're the one that you talk about balanced budget. If you don't make any money, you don't stay open. So I believe that that's an experience that I can bring to council. And as I said, I think that this is a terrific place to live, and the heritage and the lifestyle that we have here is something that I think a lot of cities wish that they did have, and that's very important to me as well. And so that's something that I want to help preserve, just as everyone else here. Let's see, what else can I tell you about myself? That's about it. Like I said, I believe that running a business. I have a lot of background in construction and development as well, and I know that we're facing a lot of that with obviously what was up here on the screen. And there's still tough decisions that are going to have to be made as we go through all of that stuff, and that's something I'm used to doing. So I look forward to being on council and helping with those decisions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. All these candidates, and there are candidates running for the districts 2 and 4. and they all have a video on Channel 8 so that you can check them all out and listen to what they've got to say. Also on the ballot, though, is going to be the Arapahoe County open space tax. The county passed this open space tax several years ago, and this vote is to extend the tax for another 10 years. The tax is shared with the cities, and I think over the past several years, we've made some very great and very wise decisions on the use of that money and the funds that were made available to us by the county open space. It's been mentioned a time or two tonight about economic gardening program and our business industry affairs department. They were invited to participate in a Harvard University, the John F. Kennedy School of Government, the Ash Center for Democratic Governance, and became one of the finalists in Innovations for American Government Award. Those finalists, we're very pleased that we are a finalist. There were over 500 applicants made to this program, and to become a finalist is really a feather in the economic gardening cap here in the city of Littleton. That program, by the way, in the last 20 years, has moved our jobs from 15,000 to 30,000 within the city. So those jobs help produce part of the income that we use to operate on in the city every year. We've got a public hearing coming up on our budget next month. It'll be presented to us on October 18th. That'll be the public hearing. So if you're interested in what we're going to be doing with our funds for the 2012 year, come out and participate in the public hearing. Leaf and tire recycling occurs on October 30th, November 6th, and November 13th. The tires, it's a small charge if you bring in a tire. The hours are from 10 to 2. It's going to be at the Mountain States Wood Recyclers. They're at 2300 West Radcliffe. You access that address off of South Santa Fe. The Christmas tree recycling will occur in December and early January. We've had some intersection improvements, one of which is in District 1, primarily at the intersection of Bowles and Lowell, and where Lowell turns into Platte Canyon. That intersection was redesigned and took care of part of the dip that was in there that slowed down traffic. Bowles Avenue next year is going to start with concrete work on the sides and will either be repaved next year or repaved in 2013. That schedule has not been firmed yet, but 2012, 2013 is going to be the Bowles Avenue redevelopment. The police department goes through an on-site assessment every few years, and it is going to be this year. If you want to make any comments about the police department, you are invited to a public hearing on the 5th day of December. It's in these chambers from 7 to 9, and the public is invited to come in and make comments about the police, both good and bad. I will tell you, having attended a couple of those in the past, that we get a lot more positive comments than we do negative comments from citizens who come to talk to the assessors who are going to be making the determination. If you got some volunteer time you'd like to give, we also have people who need snow squad, who can help do some shoveling for people who are not able to get out and shovel their walks in big snowstorms. So if you'd like to do that, there's a card in there on the table. Please pick one up and consider volunteering for the snow squad. I think we're ready to start with Kent Bagley, who's going to be doing an RTD presentation. Kent represents all of Littleton with the exception of one precinct on the very west side of Littleton, which is not in Kent's district. It's in a district that's represented by a Denver representative right now. So, Kent, if you can make sure your microphone's on.
Can you hear me okay? Jim, thank you very much for inviting me tonight to come and share some thoughts about the Regional Transportation District. Let me say that I am a Littleton resident, and many of the people that were here that are running for council said how long they've been here. I've been here since 1994, and I live just north of Heritage High School. And not only do I represent Littleton, but about 8 other either municipalities or counties in the metropolitan area. So our friends to the north in Englewood, parts of Centennial, Greenwood Village, Cherry Hills Village, even all the way over to Lone Tree and into Highlands Ranch. So, Jim, thank you for allowing me to come and speak tonight. And I think that before I get into my presentation, I just want to say that my experience living in Littleton and hearing Jim Woods talk about his experience of being here since 1984, so that's 25 years, and also the people that are running for council. We're talking about a city of about 13 square miles and about 40-plus thousand people. And so what I'm going to be talking to you about is how important it is to have a city like Littleton be part of the RTD district and the advantages that come from being part of RTD. How many, I just want to show of hands, how many of you take the light rail on a, I'm going to say a semi-regular basis or more regular? Can I just see it show of hands? Looks like quite a few. How about the bus system? Does anybody here use the bus system at all? Not as many. I think what that demonstrates is that people that are more on the fringe of the metro area, as Littleton is, it's a little bit further out than in the central part, don't utilize our services maybe quite as much as they could. I think that you'll see as development occurs, not only here in Colorado and on the Front Range, but throughout the United States in the future. We're talking about redevelopment that's occurring here in Littleton at a number of sites. You're going to see more people infilling and living like in the 2 apartment projects, the one behind the Aspen Grove Shopping Center, and also the Trammell Crow project, which is just a little bit north of here. People really want to live close to transit, and they want to live close to smaller downtown areas or urban centers.
You didn't ask about riding light rail occasionally, but I do that. I don't ride it on a regular basis. You asked about regular basis.
Well, regular, semi-regular, occasional. There are quite a few people that have an opportunity to use it. But it's really important, and to understand that the 2 stations that you have here, I'm thinking about light rail, are really critical to draw people from the rest of the metro area to your new theater. And I've talked to Councilwoman Brinkman before. If there's anything that RTD can do to assist in the, I'm going to say the, not locationally, but in the accessibility from the light rail station to that area, we want to be able to participate in that. So what I'm going to do is talk to you about a much more global picture of what RTD is doing with commuter rail and light rail in the metro area right now. So I have some, I don't know, it's probably 15, 20 minutes PowerPoint presentation followed by questions. If you'll notice on here, the dark blue, these indicate all of the potential future light rail and commuter rail lines, and there's some really interesting things happening here. Where we are, this is Littleton down here in the southwest. This is the southwest extension, and I want to talk a little bit about that before I get into more of my discussion. And this is Lone Tree. This is the southeast extension. Both of these are about 2.5 miles long, and they cost somewhere around $170 to $175 million for those extensions. And I also want to talk about this 225 corridor extension, which would come from the 9-mile park and ride site, which is right here at Parker Road and Peoria, or 225. And, of course, the Fitzsimmons Center is up here, the Fitzsimmons Medical Center. And the reason I want to highlight those is that I can't tell you how many times I get discussions from people that are around here that use light rail, and they say, well, there's not enough parking. So many of the people that come from Highlands Ranch park at the Mineral Park and Ride site. This is a very, very full site. The The same thing happens down here, and this is where the Skyridge Medical Center is on the south end. The reason that I'm highlighting the ones that are in this dark blue, purple color is that those are areas that are going to be destined for future development if we are able to get the necessary revenue to build this portion of. Those would all be light rail extensions. Over here, when I was campaigning 3 years ago, there were a number of people down here in the south central area said, I work at Fitzsimmons and the congestion is significant here for me to get there by car in a reasonable amount of time. When is there going to be light rail here? So when I look at the south end of town, not that the north end of town isn't important, because it really is, but I want you to know that one of my driving ambitions in being in the RTD board is to make sure that we get these extensions to the southeast, the southwest, and this one to a very, very critical center. And the reason it's so critical is that we were talking about many people that are older here, and there are also the VA is going to be here, so there are many people that want to use that facility, and they want to be able to get there more quickly. The entire Fast Tracks program is 122 miles of new light rail and commuter rail, and some bus rapid transit, a lot of park and ride sites, and enhanced bus network, and this Fast Connects. You see that with all the buses that come to our light rail facility here, not only at downtown Littleton, but also at Mineral. One of the big issues is the redevelopment of Denver Union Station. I was down there today on a tour. I happen to be also on the Denver Union Station Project Authority Board. That's a $500 million infrastructure project for new rail and bus infrastructure at Denver Union Station, and about $1 billion worth of future commercial real estate development around it. What is this? Moving faster than I want to move. Right now we have 48 miles of new light rail and commuter rail under construction or under contract. All the environmental work is done, and the problem is that we have a $2 billion gap in our funding in order to complete the whole program in a quick manner. Quick meaning within the next 10 years. We decided not to look at a sales tax increase in the year 2011. We also decided last year not to do it in 2010. We haven't decided on whether we're going to do that in 2012. But we have to provide a plan to the Denver Regional Council of Governments about what it could be. We're a creature of the state, and we're required to provide a potential plan for what may happen in the future. So right now, if we had a successful election, we could complete the entire Fast Tracks program. All of those blue lines that I showed you can be completed by about 2020. And if there is no tax increase and there aren't other ways to get revenue, I'll be 100 when we get this finished. We were able to save $305 million because our project for the east corridor that goes out to the airport and also the corridor that goes to Arvada came into $305 million below our estimates. So what we're doing is we're spending that $305 million on all of the corridors that I showed you, including the northwest and the northeast. Very interesting, we call it the Eagle P3 project. P3 means public-private partnership. This is something that's brand new, and we are the only transit district in the entire United States that uses public-private partnerships to do projects. That'll include the East Line to DIA, so you will be able to get on the light rail train, take it to Denver Union Station, and change trains to a commuter rail facility about 25 to 30 minutes and be at DIA and not have to worry about parking when you get out there. So it'll be somewhere around 50, 55 minutes in order to get from the light rail station in downtown Littleton to DIA. Also within that is the Gold Line, which will go to Arvada. This is along I-70 that you can see here, and it would be basically Ward Road and I-70, which would be the terminus of that commuter rail line. There will also be some connections of a line that will go up into southern Westminster. The project funding is complete at $2.1 billion, and we started construction last August and broke ground on this line, and the Gold Line broke ground in Arvada about a month ago, right at the end of August. And all of this would open in 2016, all of what you see in yellow and this blue. What's the status? When you start up, you're looking at doing utility and fiber optic relocation, so it's not stuff that you're going to see like on the West Corridor where you see bridges going up and parking garages and retaining walls, but that'll get started in full construction probably within the next month. We're doing property acquisition, and this is what will be the new commuter rail car. We're doing some modifications to this, but this is a mock-up. It was down at Denver Union Station, and I visited it a number of times, and it was on display for about a month down there. As I said, this is the first public-private partnership of this magnitude in the United States for transit. We'll own all of the assets. Availability payments, it's like a certificate, certificates of participation. Many of the local governments use those to build their facilities. It's like Aurora's new municipal hall out on Alameda and Chambers was done with certificates of participation. That's like this. We own it, but we have to pay a fee on a yearly basis. It's a 6-year design, build, and then there's a 28-year period of operating and maintaining, and they also are involved in the financing. So it's designing it, building it, operating it, maintaining it, and assisting in the financing. There's public finance that goes into this. And there, with the concessionaire agreement, this concessionaire that lasts for 34 years, there are incentives if they do well, and there are penalties if they come in under what they're expected to do. And many, many more not local governments, but transit agencies throughout the United States are going to these. These are being looked at by the new, I guess he would be he's the head of the House Transportation Committee, Mr. Micah from Florida, and he wants to see more public-private partnerships rather than just normal kinds of funding that might come from taxes as well. The full funding grant agreement, this was really exciting. We received a commitment for over $1 billion on the 31st of August for the Gold Line and the East Line and for completing that entire thing. And that's the biggest full funding grant agreement award by the present administration in the last 3 years. And it's our 4th full funding grant agreement. We've had one for the West Corridor that goes out to the Jefferson County Justice Center, and we had full funding grant agreements also for the Southeast Corridor that goes down along and which was known as T-Rex. What I wanted to show you also, because I know everybody's interested in what the finance issues are, this is a capital cost summary on a year-by-year basis. We thought that it would cost us $4.7 billion in 2004, and you can see that the numbers escalated. They've come down and stabilized at about, for the entire project, at about $6.7 billion. This APE means annual program evaluation. We have to do this, and we have to submit it to the Denver Regional Council of Governments every year. Assuming that it's completed by 2019. The capital costs remain constant. If we slip and go out a few more years, then the cost could go up slightly. And why are we more thoughtful about where we are now than where we may have been in 2004? We have 5 of the 12 Fast Tracks projects. They're either under construction with fixed and negotiated budgets with contractors, or they're under contract. So we have a much better understanding of the budgetary issues today. And as I mentioned, this has been an extremely complex procurement with the Eagle P3, which is the public-private partnership for the East Corridor and the Gold Line to Arvada. And it was $305 million less than our internal estimates. What that demonstrates to us is that the private sector is really interested in building projects, and they can still make money coming in well below our estimates. The West Corridor is being completed on time and within budget and will open in May of 2013. Most of the big work is done. What you're seeing or not seeing now is the systems work and the training that has to go on. But the systems work, meaning the electronic systems and that sort of thing, and the switches. And with all of the corridors except one, we have 30% advanced engineering and bottoms-up estimates, and we've completed all of the right-of-way acquisitions from the Union Pacific Railroad, that's the UPRR, and the Burlington Northern and Santa Fe Railroad, other than the issues with the operations agreement with the Burlington Northern and Santa Fe with the trackage that goes all the way up to Longmont. And that's the longest line. That's the Northwest Rail Corridor. And we have some really conservative cost estimates right now and inflation rates, and we have external people coming in and telling us what the issues are with costs at this time. All of the remaining corridors are construction ready, or as you were often hear, is shovel ready. We're ready to construct these. They're ready to go now. And there's something very interesting that just happened tonight. And I'll get into that in a minute. We had an RTD board meeting this evening. These were the forecasts of our sales tax forecasts, which are really critical, as they're critical for you, as just was described by City Manager Jim Woods. We forecasted in 2004 that we would receive $13.7 million of sales tax over the life of this project. And you can see that it's continually dropped, and now it's stabilized and come back up a little bit, that our present forecast at a medium sales and use tax growth rate is that we will have $8 million. That's part of the reason that we're behind the power curve as far as taxes and revenue in order to build the project. And I think the other thing to recognize is that we have outside economists, not people inside RTD, that are coming and doing sales tax forecasts for us, and those are the ones that we are adopting are outside. So we have outside experts and people involved in doing those. This innovative financing, the public-private partnership, as I mentioned, we've got federal funds for the $1 billion that we just received. $500 million for those 2 projects for the Eagle P3 project are local funds. $400 million is private equity. That's from financing entities that are involved in that public-private partnership and that design, build, operate, maintain, and finance that we talked about. And we're also pursuing loans from the federal government, from the Federal Transit Administration, for about $280 million. Denver Union Station, there's about $300 million worth of loans that will be paid off with the tax increment that comes from the area around Denver Union Station. And we're looking at funding for the US 36 Bus Rapid Transit project, which is a component of this. And we remain in really an excellent standing with the federal government on getting federal funds, as demonstrated by this $1 billion or plus more than $1 billion that was received just within the last month. And what we've determined with this $305 million savings on the project that would go to the airport and out to Arvada is that we wanted to spread the wealth around, and we're putting money into the US 36 bus rapid transit project of $90 million. The North Metro project, which would go out to the stock show, is $90 million. And part of the reason, in order to get out of Denver, it costs the most money in order to get out of Denver Union Station and get started. The I-225 project, there's another $90 million there, and that's going to take the line from Parker and I-25 all the way up to Yale and put in another parking facility. Northwest Rail, we're putting money there. The Central Corridor, which is downtown, and money about $9 million each for the Southeast and Southwest Corridor. Within the next 2 years, we'll be relocating the Union Pacific Railroad tracks at the lower down toward County Line Road. Those will be relocated and get set up so that we can extend the project and actually do the construction of the light rail extension. One of the things we're doing right now in helping small business, to date, the program, it's got about $1 billion awarded to prime contractors. 18% of that has gone to small business, and almost 100% are local firms. So we're driving smaller firms to be able to get people employed. And this regional workforce initiative now is a program set up with the local junior colleges and technical colleges and a number of other entities, and is to train workers to be on this project, but also to get the skills so that they can move on to something else in the private sector or somewhere else above and beyond working for RTD in the construction. The Federal Transit Administration has recognized this program and wants to see this program replicated all over the country right now. So we're a model. Some of the benefits that come from the Fast Tracks program, every dollar that gets invested in the project probably puts back about $4 into the local economy over a 20-year period. And we expect during the maximum construction of this project to have about 10,000 construction-related jobs. Those are plumbers, electricians, construction people, engineers. That's a lot of folks to be employed and when we need jobs. So this is, to some extent, you might say, our own stimulus. It's like building the airport and building the various sports facilities that we've had, building E470. That's the kind of job growth that can occur here. The whole issue of sustainable communities and affordable housing, as you can see here in Littleton with the project at Aspen Grove and also the project just north of here that Trammell Crow did, these are more affordable rental housing units today that are being built close to transit. And what happens here, we're not replacing the car, we're providing options. And if you talk to young people who want to get to ACC or they want to get to the Auraria Higher Education project, or not project, but the school downtown, during the middle of the day, those people are using the rail lines. So, and it also improves connectivity. I have some really interesting stories and anecdotal stuff, but I don't really have the time to share that tonight. It's not advancing. There we go. This is really something that I put together myself, and these are economic development examples. Some of you may know of DaVita. They're under construction. This is a Fortune 300 company that's under construction with a new corporate headquarters, and this is about 2 blocks from the Denver Union Station itself. And the reason that they're here is our airport and our transit system. That was stated at a meeting that I went to with the South Metro Denver Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Group probably a year ago. The IMA Financial, this is a project on the north, it's the The north, if you're looking at Denver Union Station and standing across the street where the old Wine Crew Brewery used to be, that's going to be about a 5-story office building with retail on the bottom. The west corridor, St. Anthony Hospital just moved there. The General Services Administration has about close to 100 acres for future redevelopment. This is greenfield development. The southeast corridor, Shea Development, is developing a lot of property along the light rail line down southeast, specifically Greenwood Village. I can't tell you, in talking with the Greenwood Village city manager, Ron Rakowski, how many projects are being done in Greenwood Village. Not that that's the only reason is light rail, but that's a driving factor for some of them. The west corridor, southwest corridor, the Wood Partners project, that's the one behind the Aspen Grove Shopping Center and the Trammell Crow Residential, the Alexon at Littleton downtown. These are examples of residential projects. The I-225 corridor, you would not believe what's going on at the Fitzsimmons campus right now. It's unbelievable. The East Corridor, you've probably all been reading about the future hotel and the expansion and getting a new station into DIA, but that's major. If we look at the Northwest Corridor, ConocoPhillips has a new research campus there. So these are the kinds of things that are occurring throughout the metropolitan area, and they're occurring right now. What happens when you have this kind of a transit system? It draws a lot of specialized workers, especially knowledge workers, and people that are, I'm going to say, between 25 and 35. It's a major draw for them. It improves connectivity, gives them an option on how to get around once the transit's in place. And it helps to develop and sort of stabilize, stabilize a 21st century workforce. And that's important for Littleton, even though we're on the edge. We're about 12 miles from downtown. The Southwest Light Rail line opened in 2000, so that's 11 years ago. And this whole issue of connecting innovation with education. If you look at the facility, the higher education complex at the Auraria Center, and the number of people, as I just mentioned, DaVita, which is an entity, a national entity that does kidney dialysis, and innovative ways of doing that. Education and innovation are really important, and people that are coming here want to have an educated workforce that's innovative, and those people want to come because they're drawn here partly because of transportation options. And what it also does, just like the airport does, it enhances competition with other metro areas. It's like us getting a new, I think it's Icelandic Air is now going to be running flights directly from Iceland to Denver. And with the new 787 Dreamliner, that was just the first plane was finally completed, and All Nippon Airways, I believe, and they're looking at Denver as a potential place. So when you talk about competition with metro areas, that's what's enhanced here. So that's the end of my presentation. I know that's taken about almost 30 minutes, but I'm happy to chat with you a little bit more, answer some questions if I can. And Jim, thank you very much for allowing me to have 30 minutes. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Ken, thank you for the presentation. My question refers to parking. Once again, that's a major issue for the use of the light rail that's available either down at Mineral or here in Littleton. The parking issues in downtown have reached the discussion level tonight. That's added to by a lack of really the amount of RTD parking we'd like to have, and our solutions for parking down at Mineral still appear to be temporary. And yet, when I look at the other stops up and down the other lines, there's better solutions. What's the plan for Littleton?
The plan for Littleton, with the future of light rail parking, it really surrounds the issue of the extension of the line that $170 million into Highlands Ranch with about 1,000 parking spaces there. Now, until we get the financing, we can't build that part of the line. Right now, there is no money in the budget for fast tracks to build more parking or structured parking. Structured parking costs up to about $25,000 per space. I know that there have been some discussions in the past about what could happen with the Mineral Light Rail Station. Could it be developed so that there's a parking structure and that sort of thing? We would be more than happy to entertain proposals from private entities to build residential or commercial development, and also to have different kinds of parking, structured parking. And it doesn't necessarily all have to be a one-for-one replacement. So if we have one on the ground, we need one. We're willing to work with people. We have a much more flexible approach to transit-oriented development, which is what we call it. Our new, it was really not that new anymore, our new general manager, Phil Washington, calls them transit-oriented communities. So your community here of Littleton is a transit-oriented community with all the activity that's going on around Mineral. But there are no plans right now for that. I know in the new downtown Littleton plan, there is some discussion about being flexible to see how the City of Littleton could cooperate with RTD about what might happen on the downtown Littleton light rail station in the future. So I can't say that it's ready to come, but if we had the money right now, we could start preparing for looking at parking in Highlands Ranch. That would take a big load off.
How successful has that new parking policy been in the Littleton parking area, which controls who parks there and gives you a certain amount of revenue, and in terms of making more spaces available?
You know, that's a very, very interesting question, and I just looked into that within the last week. As it turns out, along the whole southwest line, the City of Littleton, the two parking facilities or park and rides connected with the light rail stations, we generate more revenue in our parking revenue than any other place. And people can reserve a place up until 10 o'clock in the morning rather than having to be there at 5. And it's about 90% of the, I think we have something like 175 or so spaces that are reserved for these people that say, I want the space, but I don't want to have to get there till 9:30. So it's been successful. My concern is it too much? So I've asked that question. So I don't have an answer other than to say it's been successful here in Littleton.
So I do understand about the Highlands Ranch parking at Mineral, but in downtown with the RTD, Bemis from Littleton Boulevard almost up to Shepherd is jammed with cars that are light rail. And then some people are also parking at Buck in that area. So I'm hoping, I mean, I understood what you just said about downtown parking plans and so forth, but I think we really need to look at this as soon as possible, because we do get people upset that people are parking in front of their houses. So.
And I know that that's been a concern also in reference to the Mineral Light Rail Station. And I've talked to Charlie Bloston in the past, and there have been restrictions on parking. I'm just talking about near Mineral over in the South Park area. And I know that there are people that park off-site. They aren't at the major reserved location for parking. I don't know what, because there is no budget right now for parking. Yeah, that's fine. I just don't know what to do about it right now.
We try to get people out of here by 9 o'clock, and there are cards available in the community room. There's also a stack of them up here that if you didn't get your question asked, you might consider writing it down and leaving it here or bringing it by or something, or whatever you want to do to get it to us, and we will try to get you an answer for whatever question you didn't get to ask tonight. It was mentioned a time or two tonight by Kent that the finance plan that RTD puts together has to come to Dr. Cog. Dr. Cog is the Denver Regional Council of Governments. It's made up of 57 cities and towns and counties in the metropolitan area. Currently, this year, I am chair of that organization. So whenever they present their finance plan, it will come to Dr. Cog for an evaluation. We don't have our staff evaluate that. Well, our staff does. But we also hire outside consultants, people who are experts in how these financing plans are going to work. And they come back and give us an analysis of what the plan looks like. And our staff then looks at it. It comes to the 57-member board, and then we have lengthy public discussions. It's also at a public hearing where we do all of this. So anyway.
Let me do something real quick. Let me just give you a history lesson. In 1995, I was in this room, and I was with some people from RTD. And Liz Rayo was the manager of planning, and we were talking about going after the federal funding for the Southwest Corridor, and there were about 100 people here. And there was a lot of people who said, this is a total boondoggle. Nobody will ever ride it. It's a total waste of money. So keep planning for the future.
And as you know, when it opened up, it was almost 100% capacity in the first week. So thank you all for coming. Appreciate that. The City Council is... the City Council is going to have a very brief opening session, and we're going to be going into an executive session tonight. So we will continue with our business up here. But thank you. We appreciate your coming tonight.
Thank you.
We are so committed. Every word you said is true.